Hey everybody, welcome on into the ClayShare studio. I am Jessica Putnam-Phillips, and this is Live at 5, our weekly live broadcast that happens at, yes, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, most Wednesdays, not every Wednesday, but most Wednesdays. And we have a fun free pottery tutorial. Tonight, I have something extra special for you. I'm going to be teaching, yes, me. You get me tonight. And I am going to be talking about preventing warping when you're hand building. So this is a Pottery 101. If you are just starting out in pottery, or maybe you've been doing pottery for a while and you're really struggling with your pieces warping. And I'm talking about pieces warping when they come out of the kiln. Like they look like they're not warped, but then they come out of the kiln and they are warped and you're like, how come this happened? So we're going to talk about that. Yes, there'll be a little bit of physics, we'll have a visual aid, and we'll talk a little bit about the properties of clay and how to handle clay correctly. So I'm going to tell you something you're not going to want to hear. The reason your plates are warping is because of you. I know, nobody wants to hear that, but that is why. It's something you have done to the clay. Some force you have applied to the clay is causing the warping to happen. Now, a lot of times we don't realize we've done this and we think we've corrected, but clay has a memory and it has a very long memory, and it likes to remind us at the worst possible time that, oh yeah, you did this to me, and it comes back to haunt you. So a lot of times we can get away with it, especially if we're doing hand-built pieces that are in the round or bowls. If you put a lot of texture on pieces, that can help get rid of the clay memory. It really comes to get us when we do pieces without texture and pieces that are longer or taller than they are wide, like these pieces you see here. So they're usually trays, platters, dish forms that are longer than they are wide. And there's a couple reasons. One is the way that you are handling it and the way you are drying. So just the nature of an object like this, if we think about it, if it's drying, just sitting, and we'll get to it a little bit more when we get to the drying part, because I am going to make one in a minute and we'll talk through it. When you think about it drying, it's drying from the ends and the side, but these ends are going to start to dry faster than what's happening in the center. So you're going to get some warping, and then that can either be bowing up or sometimes curling up on the ends. So I've got solutions for all of that. And as you can see here, I will show you, I've got 3 platters, and look, no rocking. They are nice and flat. So I hope you can see that I'm like, and each one has a little bit different foot thing going on. So this one has a lot of little, oh, you can see how much I sell it for too. This piece is for sale if you would like to purchase it. You inquire after the broadcast. Yeah, I mean, I sell pieces too. This one right here, these can be really, really tricky. So this has an oval foot that goes along the entire piece. This one has little foot strips that I've put on to strategically support the little tray. And then this one right here, no feet at all. So you don't have to put a foot on if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. It depends when I'm making something if I put a foot on it or not. You don't have to put a foot on a piece. This is from a set of nesting dishes. There's 3 of them. This is the smallest one in the set. So I put a foot on it so that it sits down in, and they just nest so nicely in each other. And this foot raises it up just a bit so you can kind of see the whole stack. And I like the way that looks, so that's why I put a foot on it. So let's talk about clay itself. And I know we want to make things, and I want to make things with you, but we have to talk about clay and the properties of clay. So I'm going to get my slab I rolled out a little earlier. Now, it doesn't matter how you make a slab. I know there's all kinds of different opinions about whether if you roll it out with a rolling pin versus roll it out in a slab roller versus throw your clay, like one is a better way to make a slab, but I'm going to tell you it doesn't really matter how you make your slab. You could even throw a slab on the pottery wheel if you so desire. So those things, they're just all ways of making a flat piece of clay. And so here I have one, and I've rolled this out on my slab roller. It's wrapped in plastic so that it will stay nice and moist so it doesn't dry out too quickly on me. And I've done some videos talking about rolling out big slabs and how to handle them in the past. But whenever you touch your clay, every time, whatever you do to it, you're creating a little like potential for memory that the clay is going to remember what happened to it. It's like a little mini story like that the clay will tell itself. So when I do this to the clay and then I let go, it now has this kind of curved memory. It's flat. It's completely flat, but it was curved up. So although I think it's looking flat, that curve could come back to get me. It might not. And if I do something else to it to erase that memory, then it probably won't. But let me do a visual aid. So this is something I really wanted to, Clay is saying it's not me, it's you. So I was trying to think how I could do this, and I don't have any fancy graphics or anything, but I do have a sheet of aluminum foil. So when we think about clay, when, believe it or not, inside this slab is all these little plates, right? And when you roll it into a slab, they all kind of line up. So they're like this, all different angles and whatever. And then when you compress it and roll it, they all line up. And so they're now all stacked on each other. So let's imagine this foil is our slab. And just because I want to be able to demonstrate the clay memory, this will show it really well. And all right, so let's pretend this is a slab of clay right here. And there are multiple layers because in our slab of clay here, there's all those little clay, little plates, right? So that's why we did 4. So say this is laying flat, and maybe camera 2 is a better one. All right, it's laying flat, right? And then I peel it up to do something, like I peel it off the wear board, right? And I pull really hard. Well, what's just happened? Do you see this crease that I've just put into my now clay, right? Oh, that's there. That's too bad. Let's smooth it out, right? So you can rub it and you can smooth it, and you can think it's gone, but if we look down through, that memory goes through all our layers. So every layer on here, you see that crease, has it. So even if I take my rib and I smooth this top layer out as smooth as can be, let's smooth it out, because that's really all we're doing with the rib, right? We smooth it out. Oh, it's gone. There's not a crease there anymore. That crease would be a curl up, right? But the other layers down below, this layer right here, it remembers. So I don't know if that helps clear it up, like what the clay is remembering what you're doing to it. So what do we have to do to prevent these memories in our clay? We need to handle it better. You need to treat your clay a little nicer. So I'm going to take this on the clay, on the sheet, and I'm going to use the plastic and flip it over. You notice how I didn't just grab the corner and just pull it right up off and flip it on? I'm using the plastic. The plastic is supporting the clay. Actually, let's go ahead and smooth that canvas texture off before we actually flip it over, so that I don't have to flip it any more than I need to, right? So we'll go ahead and take care of that. This slab is 3/8 of an inch thick. The thickness of your clay, it actually does help. If you have really thin slabs, they're a little bit more prone to warping, so you have to be extra careful when you're handling. Also, different clays are more prone to warping. Porcelains, a porcelain stoneware like B-Mix, they are more prone to warping than, say, a groggy or sandy clay. They can absorb that memory a little bit better. So I'm going to flip this over now. And I've got actually a little dried up clay, there we go, on my board. And we're going to smooth this out. Now, I don't need all of this I just want a little bit because I want to show you something. And this is where I think we get into trouble the most. I think this is the thing people do the most that causes their warping. So I'm just going to cut a chunk off, and I'm very carefully lift that up. All right, so we're just gonna work with a piece like this. So let's say we're gonna make a plate, right? So I smooth it out, and I wanna add texture to it because I always wanna add texture to everything. But we've smoothed this out, and in doing so, what have we done? We've kind of stuck it to the board. Like, I can lift this up. It did fall off. But did you see how much it took to get it to fall off? So that board absorbed the moisture, and our clay stuck to it. And it took a bit of force to get that off. So I would not recommend doing that, but I just wanted to show you how stuck the clay gets. And if your clay is really, really wet, it gets really stuck on there. So you're gonna have to pull the clay off. And so when we are pulling it off, that's when we can really torque it. So let's go ahead and put texture, and let me, oh, this will be fun. So I'm just gonna roll this one on. And I'm gonna grab, we're just gonna do a quick thing. So I'll just grab a template. Let's see, here we go. We'll do this, lay it on there. So this will be a test piece. I'm gonna make this, and I'm gonna put it in the kiln, and we'll see what this looks like, but I guarantee it's gonna be warped. And I'll show you what we do, what our first mistake is. All right, so there's gonna be our piece, right? You notice I didn't release my clay before I rolled my texture in, so that's mistake number one. We should always, when we smooth our clay slab out, release it from the board. Then when you add your texture, although it's pressing it back into the board, it is going to not be as sticky. So I'm gonna pick this up, peel this up, because I wanna put it over my form, right? Now watch. I grab a corner and I pull. You see what I just did? Do you see it? This right here. And then as we pull through, the back here is still stuck. Peel it off. Now look what I got. Do you see this? This is what I've just done to my clay. So my clay has this memory right here. Now I can lay it back down, I can flatten it. Oh, it's gone. It's not gone. It's still there. The clay will remember. It will do that in the glaze firing. So even if we take this piece now and we drape it on a form and we make something with it, it is going to torque because I did that to it. So we need to not do that, right? Look, it kind of wants to. Do you see this? Do you see how it's kind of trying to do that? So what can you do if you do this and you realize and you're like, oh, I made a mistake. Okay, pick up your slab, about 6 inches off your board, drop it. So now I've just realigned all the particles. So everything should be flat again. If you don't think it is, lift it up and pull it off, drop it again. So let's just carefully, let me show you how you can lift it up without torquing. See, I used more of my hand surface to pick it up. I didn't just pull the corner. Now we're gonna drop it again. So let's make sure it's gone. Another thing you could do, if you don't think that there has done enough, or maybe it has, and you're afraid pulling it off the board might torque it again. So my suggestion is you take another board, happen to have a board here, you put it on this board, because we want to put it on a form, right? We flip that over, and because it already released once, it released again. So I didn't peel it up at all. I left it nice and flat. So we went from flat to flat, and now I've not introduced any torquing or any twisting to the clay. Now I'm going to go ahead and smooth my corners, just my edge here, with a damp sponge. And then I've got this right here. So actually I want to flip it the other way, right? Sorry, I was all excited. I was like, oh, flip it. And then we're going to flip it back. So let's get another board and flip it back. But the thing is, so I flipped it over and now I smoothed the back. That looks nice. Now we'll flip it back over. So I was able to clean the back up, and then I can clean up the front. And now we can put it on a form. So from here you might think, well, I just pick it up and flip it over onto the form, but this is why I like to line it up, the form up on, and then we'll flip this onto a board. And then pop that off. Now these this might still, this one, it may still torque on me. I really mistreated this clay a lot. So I'm not sure, I'm really not sure if it will come back to haunt me. But one thing we can do, make sure I'm lined up correctly, is we can then take a damp sponge and using a form, I'm using a GR Pottery form, it's actually my Ravier, and the rim template here was my Eloise rim template shape. So I'm using a damp sponge to press it against the form on the sides. So I'm conforming the clay, and then I like to go a step further, and I have one of these fabulous mud tool ribs. This is the red #1 rib. And I take the curved side and I just kind of let that go around. So this right here is going to help give the clay a new memory. Hopefully it forgets that old terrible warping memory. You can see these lines are from my texture from the other side. That's what we're seeing there. And then you can let it sit. Now, this particular form, if I leave it like this, I'll get a nice flat shape. But if I want to make it more cupped, I would pull this off. I would put a little something under it, a spacer from GR Pottery, or any spacer you have. And I'm just going to gently tap the sides. Do you see how I'm doing that? So they just, you see? So it's a little deeper. This is how to make a little bit deeper form. And if you're working and you don't happen to have a GR Pottery form spacer, and you think, oh, I can't do that now because I don't have those spacers, but I got you covered. Hold on. You've got, you must have a bottle of glaze or underglaze somewhere, right? So you just sit it on this. And then you can really make sure it's nice and even. And for the bottom, with this one, let's not put a foot on this. Let's not do anything. Let's just let it be. But what I do like to do is take a board and just kind of, this one's overkill. This board's way too big, but it's what I have. So I kind of pat, 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 and that flattens it out a bit. And that's all I'm going to do. Now, for this piece here, I mean, it's basically the same as this, a different shape, but the bottom is the same deal. It's the same thing. So I made this the same way using our template that we have, our rectangular template with built-in handles, and a GR Pottery form, one of the rectangles. Actually, I think I used one of the spherical rectangles, and I made it the exact same way as this. And you can see there, you know, I mean, it's hand-built, so there's always going to be a little bit of organic form happening, right? But it doesn't wobble. So my big thing, I don't mind a little bit of, you know, one side being a little bigger than the other or something, but what I don't want is I don't want rock, rock, rock. Like this one doesn't, but imagine like this. We don't want this, and we don't want that. Want to stay put. So this is really important. Now, let's make one with a foot, and we'll do it pretty much the same way, except we're going to put a foot on it. So it's extra exciting because it'll have a foot. And I find that the Ravier forms, that's this shape here, the diamonds. So they're called diamonds on GR Pottery Forms website. And I've done a couple tutorials. There's individuals, or you can get the 3. The smallest one is currently under clay. But this one, the largest one, and then the middle size one. And then I have 2 forms that match them. Like I said, that first one we used the Eloise, which is more like a cloud sort of shape. It's really, really sweet, very country. And this one is the Colette, which is a little more formal, I think, but I really like it. It reminds me, well, let me show you. It reminds me of these French raviers that, you know, you can buy in, say, Paris. If you happen to be there, you could get one. So here's one that I picked up at the flea market thrifting in Paris a couple weeks ago, and I did share that. Here's a ravier, this shape. It's a little deeper, you see? So this one, now these would have been made by slip casting. We're not slip casting, but just to give you an idea, look at this nice side, right? So here's another one, and then this one right here. So it just gives you an idea how flat you make it. Like this one's pretty flat. This one is a little deeper. But look, do you see even factory made, do you see there's a little bit of torquing on this, right? And so sometimes things do still in the kiln, depending on where they are. Sometimes there can be some warping, and also the kiln shelf does play a part. So when I said it was all you, some of it is not 100% true, right? Some of it can be your kiln's fault. You can blame some of it on your kiln, absolutely. But a lot of it is what we're doing to the clay and how we're treating it. And I know many people, myself included, you get caught up in making and you're not really thinking about how you're handling the clay. So you just need to be more conscious. You like the deep dish one, right? I like it too. That's why I got it. I was like, that's coming home with me. Thank you. Now those were slip cast, but you could make a deeper dish ravier, and I have some ways of making that are a little different than what I'm doing tonight. So I'll do a little video showing how I would make a deeper dish one and put it up on ClayShare for you all. So let's smooth this out. And I don't know if I mentioned, this clay actually is Laguna B-Mix 5, which is one of those clays that can be a little persnickety and more prone to warping. And did you see how I lifted that up? I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to grab the clay right here. 2 hands, all 4 fingers of each hand are splayed out. And I'm just lifting, but I'm trying to lift it though. I'm not trying to curl it back. I'm just lifting more straight up and then lay it back down. Now let's imagine this is a giant slab on my slab roller and I want to move it or flip it over because I'm making a big piece. But what I do is I go in and I gently lift up. I put my forearm under. So you can have clay from, it depends on your arm. If your arm's bigger, you can have a bigger slab than me. No, I go all the way as far up as I can. So when I'll drape it, and remember, this is a giant slab. This is, you know, this is something that's like 20 inches by 26 inches. I don't know. It's really big. So I'll lift it up. I'll have it all on my form. I'll pull the whole thing up till it's almost standing, bring it back to the end, and lay it down. So be gentle with your clay. Treat it nice. Don't yank on it. You know, I always think about when I was first learning that every movement has to be a conscious movement, especially on the wheel. Wheel throwers know this. You have to pay attention when you're throwing because just moving your hands slightly, you could change the form, put it off center, move it in such a way that it just folds up on itself. You have to be very conscious of every movement. You also have to be very deliberate. Every time you put your hands on the clay or take your hands off, you have to do it with confidence and surety. Same with hand building. We can't just grab and yank. You have to treat it a little nicer. So these are all the making things, and let me make this and then we'll talk about drying, and then we'll talk about the different stages. Can you do anything to fix it if you have warping? Now, when we're talking about warping, I'm talking about, and you can see this one right here. This plate I made, the piece was really, really wet when I made it. And so it was very stuck. When I lifted it, and I was guilty of doing this, I kind of pulled the clay slab up. Do you see how it's already starting to torque up right here, this corner? I hope you all can see the difference. I really see it. Like I think if I sit it down, you can kind of see, you can really see it here. Do you see? 100%, look at this. Can you not imagine? I grabbed it here, I peeled it up, right? So this would have been, I put texture on, I cut out my shape with my rim template, and then I grabbed the corner and I pulled it off the board. It was really stuck, so, and very wet. So I peeled it up, and that peeling up has come back now. It's here in the bisque, and this will only get worse as I fire. There's not anything I can do. There's no amount of sanding. I mean, I can try to sand it, but it's almost the whole back, plus it's the wall. It's really not something I can fix. It might flatten out. I always tell myself that in the glaze fire. It's like, oh, it might flatten out in the glaze fire. I say that. Will it? Probably not, because it's pretty wobbly, although you get a fun little game. So the solution would have been, well, it was stuck, to take both hands and gently lift up like that instead of doing the quick peel. And that's what I did. And I'm guilty of it because I'll be in a hurry and I will want to move on to the next thing. So being mindful of that, I'm just going to lift it up. So this is good. Let's go ahead and put a texture on it. I think we should because, hey, I've got all these rolling pins and you know, might as well put them in something. What do we got? What do we want? Does anybody have a request? What you want to see? I know what I want to use. And this is going to cause a little trouble, but I'm going to do it. Only because I don't have any available right now, but I'm working on redesigning this rolling pin because it's a very persnickety one. This is the Scandi Birds design, and it can be troublesome to make, but I'm working on it. All right, because look at this. Isn't this the cutest? Little sidetrack. All right, so this right here, what we just did, we just put all this pressure on our slab. And by doing that now, we've kind of restuck it to the board. So when we lift this off, I need to be careful how I do it so that I don't peel it up. So I'm just going to go in gently, and I'm going to just lift kind of straight up more than peeling back, and then let it sit back down. Kind of set it a little bit to help flatten it out. Now we're going to go ahead and use rim template. So a lot of times when I'm making in the studio, if I'm in a hurry, I am guilty of just peeling things up, but I do a lot of times flip things around, and I think we all become a little lackadaisical. We all forget how we should treat the clay, and sometimes we need a little reminder, and it could be as simple as noticing that you're getting a lot of pieces that are wobbly, that you need to slow down, and you need to think about what you're doing. So that's why this is so great for anybody. If you're a beginner, you know, this is teaching you off on the right foot, getting you started with good practices so that when you're making pottery, you'll have less problems, you'll have less warping. And it's a great reminder for those of us who've been making pottery for a while that sometimes we need to go back to the basics and we need to think about what we're doing and be more mindful of how we're making, because it's really easy to forget, and then you end up with pieces warping. So I'm going to line this up over here, and I'm going to cut this off. So I just cut straight up and down with the knife, and if you've seen me use rim templates and GR pottery forms, basically the making is always the same. It's just a different form. But that's one of the things I absolutely love about it. So if you're new to pottery, lucky you, because you are coming in a point where you have all these things. When I started 26 years ago, none of this was around. So you didn't have ClayShare rim templates, and you did not have GR Pottery forms to help you out, but you do now. So take advantage of that. I always think about people who are learning now. You're starting off on the shoulders of those who came before you. So I am teaching you everything I know so that you're going to start way up here. You're not starting way down here. You're starting already the things I know, you're going to start knowing. So the things that I've learned over these decades of making pottery, you don't have to wait decades. So you're jump starting. It's like you're starting way ahead of me. And so that means I expect a lot from you. I want to see you do great things because you are starting off so much further along than I started. And that's the best thing about sharing ClayShare, YouTube, any place that you learn how to make pottery. It's the great thing about sharing what we know with each other. We're passing down these traditions so that new potters will learn easier, and all the things we've already figured out, all the problems we've already solved for you. Not that you won't have your own and things won't go wrong, because they will, but you're starting out in a pretty great place, I think. So, and right now is a great time to be starting pottery, no matter your age. All right, what I love is I lined up my pattern on the top and bottom with the center so that this should be fairly symmetrical. And I'm just lining up my corners. Now with this, I can actually get away with doing a little flipping over trick here. Look, I just flip it like that. Do you see how wet this is? Let's turn this over so I'm not working on a wet surface. That way when I slide it off, I won't have to fight it so much. Any tips on rolling the pattern onto the clay without thinning it on the ends? Hello from Ottawa. Yes. So you want to stop before you get to the end. And all I've got a bit of clay. Remind me if I don't get to it at the end. But when you're rolling, don't roll off the clay. Just go almost to the end and stop. Just don't roll off, because if you roll off your slab with the textured rolling pin, you are going to thin it down. Also, as we are rolling, we tend to put more and more pressure on it. You might notice when you're rolling a slab that you're actually putting more pressure at the end than when you start. You've always loved the Scandi birds. I'm going to bring it back. I have to redesign it. The last time we made Scandi birds, we lost, like, I would say it would take 5 seconds to get one good rolling pin. It's because where the rolling pin, they have to meet up so precise. It's a thing. But I'm going to go ahead and redesign it so it doesn't have to meet up so precisely. It can free float a bit. So those of you who do design stuff will understand. If you don't understand, you don't have to understand. It's fine. I'm going to fix it. All right, so I went ahead and I used my sponge to smooth the clay up against the form. And now I'm just going to use my damp finger to smooth over my edge. I got a little air bubble over here. I'm just going to smooth that in. If you are finding that you've got an air bubble and it's being really stubborn, you can take a little bit of clay, usually the clay that I pull off my rib, you know, because when you're smoothing it out, you'll get a little extra clay built up on your rib. And I'll just put that in there. Or if you have some slip, or like Annie uses her spackle clay. If you have spackle clay, you just take a bit of that and squish it in that little pocket, and nobody knows. All right, so we're going to put a foot on this one. So I'm going to take a board and I'm going to press it on. You love the leopard roller, you got it. So anybody ordering rolling pins, we have, we're trying to catch up on everybody's orders. Right now, if you look, everything says sold out. We're gonna get caught up and then we're gonna open up ordering again. So don't panic. It's just, I wanna make sure I get all the orders out for the people that have already ordered before I take new. So we're just gonna slow down a little bit. So your slab-built mugs always seem to warp. They go oval. Yes, that happens so often. Now, I am hand building a mug in prime time, so if you're a premium member, Corey, come watch. And I will go over that there. But you can do a couple things. You can overbend your ends. So we do a quick little talk about hand building a mug. Just overbend them, and that, what will happen is that's kind of using clay memory to our advantage, so that when it tries the oval, it won't oval as much. That can help. Also, if you use any kind of a rim rounder or anything, that can really help as well. All right, so I need to make some feet, and a really easy way to make feet is with a foot maker, right? I'm gonna make a foot. Let's use a foot maker. And I have a really simple tutorial. It's really quick. You can go watch on making a foot maker. And really, it's just taking, I got mine in here, a corn on the cob holder, and you're gonna wanna grind down the ends so it's not too sharp, and then you spread it open. And the, whatever you want, you can make this wider, and then you get a little bit more of an angle or narrower. You can take a bunch of them. I mean, you get a pack of these, what, 6 or 8 in a pack? So I suggest make a bunch of them, have some that are skinny, some that are really wide, because you might want a wide one for a platter. You might want some skinny ones for little dishes. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some strips. That's as far as I can go with that. I ran out of clay. So that's gonna go over here. So we need 2 of those. So let's get another one. And it doesn't even matter to me that this clay is curved and I want a straight foot. It doesn't matter. It won't matter. It's going to be actually a little ovoid shape, so we'll cut that off. Alrighty, now we have feet right there. And so I'm going to make a foot that kind of mimics the shape that I have for my dish. Now, this one right here has a super simple foot. I just did strips across the back. That's it. So easy. Just 4 strips of clay, and that'll support it. Doesn't need anything else. So if you don't want to make a foot that goes all the way around, you don't have to. You can just do some strips. Here is what I'm making though for you. A little bit bigger version of this on this particular form. And this is actually the same rim template. This one does not have any texture. And I just want to show you, I mean, it looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any warping on this one. And it's been through the bisque, but that doesn't mean it won't warp. It could. Oh, all right. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to flip these over. And I have my slip and a serrated rib. And the slip I'm using is just the clay that I have with, you can just use water. I have magic water in here, which is sodium silicate and soda ash mixed together, and I have a recipe for it on ClayShare. It's free. You can go get that under the resources, I think is where it's at. And you can make this, and what it does is the soda ash and sodium silicate act like more of a glue. It almost glazes and fuses everything together. All right, so we're going to put our foot just on the outside of the bottom. And I know that seems like, what? Why are you putting it on the outside? But you do. If you put it on the inside, then you're going to be more prone to getting wigglies. And what I mean by that is, let me grab a form. I think I got the next size up. So we're looking at this part right here on the form, this diamond shape. We don't want to put our foot right here on this line. We want to go just outside the line, about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So the reason I pressed that other board on, and you could actually rock Not too much, because you don't want to compress it, but you can feel that. And I want to put it right on the outside to get a little wider base. So I've marked it with my hands. Now I'm going to go in with my slip and I'm going to mark where I'm going to put my feet. And again, you don't have to put feet if you don't want to. We don't have any foot police here, so it's up to you. So we'll slip and score all of it. Put this on. Just line it up on the scored area. Then I'm going to cut there, and I'm going to cut here. So I just cut it in half, right? So I made half a foot. And then we'll slip and score the other piece, and we'll put that on too. So what are my thoughts on bisque firing plates on their sides versus flat? Will that cause warping? Well, I once bisque fired a platter on its side, and it warped so much that I don't do that anymore. Now, depending on what clay you're using and what temperature you're firing to, you might be able to do that. But I did not have good luck, and that was a B-mix piece. So now it depends what it is. It was a platter, so it was a pretty big thing. So I'm thinking if you're doing small things, tiles or something like that, tiles you can fire on their sides, but I don't like to fire plates on their sides for the bisque, because at my firing temperatures, the B-mix, well, at a hot cone 5, it does start to soften enough to warp. I mean, at the bisque temperatures, it starts to soften. Just enough, just enough. So I did a little cut that overlaps both, right? Now I'm slipping and scoring. I'm going to press them together. Smooth out the seam. So we'll hide that, and that's why our rib comes in handy again. And now, my favorite, you know, I should do these broadcasts on Tuesday, and you know why, don't you? You know what's coming next? Is the taco sponge. So we could have Taco Tuesday pottery tutorials. All right, so you just wrap your sponge up like it's a taco. This is a new sponge. It's really hard to do the sponge taco with a brand new sponge, but as they get broken in, whew, you can do an awesome sponge taco. And you just kind of wrap it around the foot. And then I take my fingers and I do the I love, you know the little I love you, little Korean. Well, you do that. You make that. And you just push that along. So your fingers are the tool, best tool for the job. And that smooths it, and it also really joins it well to the body. Now, I'll take my finger and drag it along the edge, blending if I need to. And then I like to take, you have lots of options here. You could take a brush. Sometimes I use a 1/4 inch synthetic flat brush. I've been using this filbert lately. This is a number 10 filbert. Works really well for this. And you can use the handle, the back end. You thought I was going to say the bristles. You can use the bristles if you want. So if you're using the handle of a number 10 filbert to smooth the join, you could use anything. I mean, you could use the back handle of anything you have. You can use one of these color shapers. They're also called, now sometimes they're called clay shapers. They're for pastels. And I have this Zim tool right here. This is a really nice one. You can see I've used this so much. Wait, this is holding it straight up and down. Do you see it has a little bend to it? So this does a nice job. Also, you can drag that along as well. But if you don't have these things, I mean, I think about tools a lot, obviously, and I think about all the tools I use, and you know what? I could get rid of every single tool I have and just use my hands and a sponge, and maybe I would just keep the yellow rib. Like, that's it, 3 things, and what could I do? Well, a clay knife, but that's it, those 3 things. You don't need, but I have to tell you, I like tools, so I'm always getting new tools to play with, and it's just fun, and you don't have to have them, by no means, but I enjoy them, and since this is my job, and has been my job for most of my life, that why not have fun in my job with the tools that I can use? So don't think you have to get certain tools, but if you want to get some tools, I'm not going to stop you, and I'm not going to tell you don't. If it makes you happy, go for it. I'm going to take this and clean up the very top and bottom of those feet. Now, I want to make sure it's flat. I'm going to take my board, I'm going to press it on. When I say a hot cone 5, what do I mean? I mean, I do a cone 5 firing, which is 2167 Fahrenheit, and then I add a hold onto that firing, 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the kiln, and it fires a little hotter than 5, like maybe 5 1/4, 5 1/2. It doesn't quite get to 6, but it gets pretty hot. And you can tell if you put little pyrometric cones in your kiln. You'll want a cone 4, a cone 5, and a cone 6. You need all 3, so you really know what's happening. If you can only get 2, do 5 and 6, but you'll see your 5 melt good and down, and your 6 just starting to bend. And that lets you know that you got to a hot cone 5. All right, so this is done, but we have to make a decision. Do we want to keep it nice and flat? This one here is flat. This has not been pulled off or draped on anything. This has been left, and I think I want a flat one. We did the draping on the other one, but if I wanted to make it deeper, I could pull this off and do like we did here, where we put it on this to make it deeper. I fire my bisque to cone 05, but it depends. I used to fire to 06, but I found that I needed to go just a little bit hotter. 06 was not hot enough. I was getting a lot of pinholing in my pieces, and that might be something, if you're getting a lot of pinholing, you might want to do a slower bisque. So I do a slow bisque to cone 05. I used to, when I first started, we did bisque cone 10, clay and glaze firings, we bisqued to 08. That seems so low to me that we did that back in the day. But now I don't do that. So let's go ahead and flip this one out. It hasn't quite set as long as I would like it to, but so you visited with a potter of only 50 years, and he only used a needle tool, knife, and wooden rib. He said that's what he learned with, and that's what he stayed with, and his work was beautiful. See, that's the thing. You don't need a lot, but if it makes you happy and brings you joy, I like playing with tools. I kind of get a thing for them. So for me, I like it. So I do. But if you only need those few things and that brings you joy, you just do it. You don't need all the stuff. I'm just telling you. You don't need it. Can you have it? Yeah. And is it fun? Yeah. But do you need it? No, you don't. So, while this is sitting like this, I want to talk a bit about drying. So I'm going to flip this over. And as it's sitting here, has it sat quite long enough? We'll see. It might be a little soft. So I'm just going to take it, put it on a board, flip the whole thing over, pop this out. I'm just going to get a couple, let's see what I got. I got some sponges. And we'll just put some sponges under it to support it so it doesn't flop. That's fine. That's 100% from Annie. Thanks, Annie. I always use plastic. I'll just take my plastic and wrap it under my piece to support it. But Annie just did a workshop with us, and she uses sponges to support her pieces. And I was like, you know, I have a ton of sponges in my studio, so why not use them to support my pieces? All right, so we're gonna let this dry. And now we're gonna come back and talk about what's happening when we're drying. So when this is exposed to air, you have air on the top drying it, and air is only getting underneath here, but it is sitting on a wooden bat. So the wooden bat is absorbing moisture as well, but not quite as much as the air. So what can tend to happen is it can bow up, because as it dries, the center will kind of pull up, drying, and it's shrinking and it's bowing up. So if you're getting bowing up, that's why. The other thing that can happen when it's drying is if we look at the piece and it's drying towards the center, right? So these is drying, if we just go at the same rate, we're going to get to the center faster from the sides than the end. So that means this part here is going to dry faster than here, which means these sides could curl up on us. And then these will eventually catch up. But as these are curling up, what are these doing? They're reacting to the curling up. So you can get warping in the way you dry. So what I do is I will let it sit out like it is now for a few hours. I just want it to be, and it depends on the humidity in your studio, but I want it to be leather hard before I do my next step, which I've got to go grab a couple things. I didn't grab any weight bags when I started. So we'll talk about that. And I have a whole bunch of them. So weight bags are just exactly what they sound like. They're bags filled with something that gives it weight. I use traditional kitty litter, not scooping, clean, of course. And I use old shirt sleeves or the bodies of the shirts, and I do not sew, so I use rubber bands, and I do have a tutorial on making these. So something like this, since it's a long shape, this would be nice, but it's not doing anything out here. So I would use this one. So I used a rubber band on one end, and the other end I tied in a knot. This one, all knots. I mean, if I had done rubber bands, I could have made this one longer. So this I will put in. Now, mind you, this is way too wet. I should not be doing this yet, but I want to show you what I do. I do this, and then I cover the entire piece with plastic, and I let it dry. And so when I come to the studio the next day, I'll take the plastic off, I'll lift up the weight bag, I'll see how everything's doing. Maybe it's time to smooth the edges, you know, because I'm not going to fiddle with that now. I really want it to just dry, and then when it's a nice dry leather hard, I will make sure the edges are nice and smooth if I have to go back with a sponge. And then I put my weight bag back on, and I let it keep drying. So the weight bag sitting on it, the kitty litter is going to absorb moisture. So we have that happening, and then the board's absorbing moisture, so they kind of even each other out. And the plastic being on it is creating a humidity tent. So it's keeping the humidity level inside the same and even, and no outside air is blowing across my piece or drying it. So this is really important. Now, if you do all this and you sit this in a spot where the sun shines in your studio and the sun will shine on it, it will heat up your humidity tent. It will cause moisture to build up and drip back onto your piece, which can cause it to crack. So ask me how I know. You don't have to, you know I've done it. But so my suggestion is keep it out of the sunlight. And then we'll let this dry. All right, so then once it's dry all the way, completely dry, like you're ready to put it in the kiln, it is bone dry. Let me grab I don't know if I have any of these bone dry, but I have a couple bone dry things. So we can, well, it's not the same form. I was like, I don't have any plates right now. Sorry, I hate walking off. And just run like, just wandering off into the wilderness of my studio. I don't have any bisque. I only have this. So it's a little herb stripper we made a few weeks ago. I have that. So what I do when I have bisqueware that is not even, and this is something I have done always, and it's a very common practice among potters, is you get a board and you take the board, and I will take a sponge, and you get the board damp, and then you take your foot. Now we're pretending this is, let's pretend this is bisque. This is better. Let's pretend this is bisque, and then it's wobbly. So you get the board wet, and then you take this and you just go in a circle with your bone dry greenware. And you do this, and you'll notice there'll be like mud, right? A little puddle of mud. And in your feet, well, you can see on the bisqueware, the feet will be worn down a little bit. And so you'll go back in with a sponge, you'll clean the feet just a bit so they don't have any rough edges. And you'll check your thing, and you'll make sure it's not wobbling, and you'll be like, oh, great, it's not wobbling. So you're good. Now you take your greenware and you bisque fire it, right? So that's how I fix that. And that is something I have done always. And a lot of people do it. It's very common. If you don't know that, I'm happy to be the one to tell you. And if you have only seen one person do it and you're like, oh my gosh, someone else does it, it's actually, it's the practice. It's the norm. So now we have bisqueware. And let's say our bisqueware is being stubborn and is wobbly, and you want to go ahead and take care of it before you glaze. You can do that. If you have a sanding disc from Diamond Core Tools, put it on your potter's wheel, get it wet like you're supposed to, turn it on, have it spinning, and put this on it. And you grind it down until it doesn't wobble. And we've done demos with Diamond Core Tools. I actually even have a demo on using the Diamond Core Tools discs to do that. So if you do that, then you glaze, and then you glaze fire it, and it still wobbles. And we're only talking about wobbling here. We're not talking about the sides. I got to tell you honestly, if the sides torque up on you, you cannot do anything to fix that. That's just a done deal. That's what you have now, and I'm sorry, but that's what happens. So you glaze fire it, and it comes out of the glaze. Ooh, look how pretty it is. It's so pretty. And it's still wobbly. You get it wet and you put it on your diamond sanding disc again, and you sand it back down. So that's how you fix it. And that's what I got. Do I find need to change the bat so the moisture doesn't go back in the clay? Yeah, Molly, that is a great, great question. And yes, once it's dry enough for me to move without warping it, I will usually switch it to another bat because they can actually mold sometimes. And I've left pieces under plastic for a week. I forgot them, and I came and checked, and there was mold growing on them. I mean, it's fine. You wash it off and everything, put it out in the sunshine, it'll take care of it. But yeah, switch it to a bat that is not as wet, and that will help with that. So, see, you've seen people use empty toilet paper rolls to hold up sides. Anything you can use. Yeah, I've used glaze bottles, right? Or a random mug I have in the studio. Let's show, look, zombie mug right here. We did those a couple of years ago. So that's what I got for you. It's a really kind of basic, the way we handle our clay really stays with the clay. So just be gentler, be more conscious of what you're doing. Remember that everything you do is going to be reflected in the clay. So when we grab that corner and tear it up, we're going to get that little torquing, that wobbling. And when we're drying our pieces, we just want to dry them in a way that's going to prevent them from warping. Because these so a round plate, I still use weight bags, but they don't really warp. They don't dry that unevenly because the shape of them, everything dries to the center at the same rate. So it's not as big of an issue with those. But these longer forms, then they are wide, it can be an issue. So grpotteryforms.com, great place to get some forms. ClayShareMarket.com, you can get my rim templates. and we'll get rolling pins back up pretty soon. We're working on that right now. Lots of other great places. De La Design Gifts has some fabulous cutters and stamps. Coal Mountain Pottery has amazing rollers if you're looking for rollers for texture. So there's a lot of options out there to help you if you're looking for tools. So if you want to buy tools, you've come to the right place. So we've got a little bit of exciting things going on. Next Thursday, we're starting a 3-part workshop with Maria Sampson. It's all about glaze testing and test tiles. So if you're new to pottery, this would be perfect for you. So go to ClayShare.com to find out about that. Premium members, you get 20% off all of our workshops. And remember, you get workshops forever. Everybody, not just members, everybody gets workshops forever. So if you sign up for a workshop like Annie just did one, Annie Kreisberg this past week, you sign up for that, you get it forever. You sign up for Maria's current upcoming one, you get that forever. I'm gonna have a quick break, and when I come back, I've got a twofer for you guys. So if you're not a member, you can go sign up now, because I'm gonna teach you how to hand build a pumpkin mug with a sculpted vine handle, like this one right here. This is the wheel thrown version. Oh, I just gave half of it away. And then we're gonna wheel throw one. So I'm gonna show you how to hand build and wheel throw in our primetime class starting at 6:15 p.m. This class, of course, will be recorded, and you will be able to go back and watch it over and over and over, all that you want. Now, Maria is joining us next Wednesday for Live at 5. So if you want even more information about our upcoming glazing and test tile workshop, come back next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Also next week, I'll be making our annual Christmas ornament in our primetime class. So if you are not ready for the holidays, oh, you need to be, because if you're making handmade pottery, honestly, I should have made them back in July, but we're gonna do it next week. So I wanna thank everybody for being here tonight. This tutorial will be available as a replay shortly, and just give us a few minutes to get it up, and I will clean everything up, and I'll be back with my premium members at 6:15 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you all then. Good night, everybody.